Life is worth living. Life is worth living. It really, really, really is. And I hope if there's any of you out there questioning that, you'll listen to this. Let me tell you a story. So, I had this experience that really changed my life and really changed me. And it's what led me to discover how much I love life and how just amazing life is and can be. So, back in December 2018, I started dating this girl. Her name's Izzy. And we had this just amazing relationship for about 9 months. It was just so amazing. We were both just so right for each other. We matched each other so well with our personalities. He is so intelligent and interesting and so kind. If there's anyone I think of that embodies the word kind, it's her. And everything. And she was just amazing and so it just changed me so much and added so much to my life and changed me so much as a person. Helped me come coming of age, helped me come of age and improve and mature, and she just taught me how to love. I didn't really love my friends so much anymore or before, but she taught me how to love, what love means and what love is, and all of these things. So we had this amazing relationship for 9 months. But then her parents were like controlling, and they never wanted her to have a boyfriend. She wasn't supposed to have one. She had to go against her parents to have one. Um, and so back in then May or June 2019, they started making our lives really difficult. They wouldn't allow us to talk. They would take away her phone. They would look at her phone. They wouldn't let her see me in person. They wouldn't let us see each other, and I got really dependent on her. I got really dependent on her because it was my relationship with her was one of the best things I had ever had in my life. It was just amazing and great and awesome. Made me so happy and made me happier than anything had ever made me before. And so I became dependent on her because I didn't think about. I was just stupid and not thinking, and I got dependent on her. Really dependent for my emotions, for my happiness, for my mental stability, which is really bad. And so, not being able to see her meant that my mental health was worse. And her parents just started making stuff worse and worse and really ramping up. And that started to make my mental health worse and worse. And it was just this feedback loop, and I just kept getting worse and worse, and it was bad. And then her parents sent her to Virginia and without a phone, and the only thing she had was a Chromebook that her grandparents would monitor because she was living with her grandparents there. So it was basically a week of almost no contact with her. And at this point, I had started thinking about suicide. And because I started thinking about suicide because I was so dependent on her and I wasn't being able to talk with her, and nothing much else didn't give me joy anymore. It was just her. And I got really obsessive and really dependent, and it was awful. And um so yeah, and then I told her. She got back from Virginia and I went to a concert. I got a phone call from her at the concert, and then I told her at the concert, quote unquote, Izzy, if you broke up with me, I would kill myself. Isn't that awful? Isn't that just terrible? That's awful. But I wasn't thinking. I was only thinking about my pain and myself, my obsession with her. I only thought about myself. And so I told her that if she broke up with me, I would kill myself. Because I wanted to manipulate her into saying yes and not breaking up with me. I didn't really realize, I don't think, quite what I was doing. I didn't think about the pain it was going to cause her. I didn't think about the sadness and the sorrow and the trauma, the emotional and mental trauma that it takes on you when someone tells you that. I was not thinking about that. I was only thinking about myself, and I was terrible, and I was selfish, and I was toxic, and I was abusive, and obsessive, and narcissistic. Just awful all around. So yeah, I said that to her, and then I continued to say that to her for about 2 to 3 weeks before her friends made her realize how I was being terrible. This was September 10th, 2019. Her friends made her realize that, I think, and or at least that's what I thought then. And then she decided to just stop talking to me. She said we could still be friends, and she wanted to still be friends, but her friends made her realize that that was not right, because what I did was not right and awful. And it goes to show how people do bad things. Anyway, um, so she abandoned me. She just stopped talking to me, stopped, no communication whatsoever. And I was still determined to get back together with her because I loved her so much. Well, no, more than not more than that. I wanted to get back together with her because she was like one of the only things that made me happy, and she was just one of the best things, the best thing in my life, and I was so obsessed with her. So, of course, I was obsessively wanting to get back together with her. It was so stupid. And I kept wanting to get back together with her and thinking of ways that I could, but I first needed to apologize to her. I realized that the very day, the very day that she cut off communication with me, that meant that I was no longer able to threaten her with suicide. And the very day I was no longer able to threaten her, and I was the same day, that meant that I had more time to think. And that very day, I realized how terrible I was being. Not entirely, but I realized, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I can't do this to her. So I didn't. And I just thought about how I could get back together with her. And life went on, and I did school stuff. This is September, October. And I was lonely, so I started staying after school. And I stayed after school with my science teacher to just talk and stuff because he was interesting to talk with. One day, an acquaintance from the year before saw me staying after and said, and he was staying after in the teacher's room. Dr. Smith, his name is, Doc's room. He was staying after with Doc with his friend, and he told me to come on over and hang out with them. And I was like, I don't know, should I? But, oh, I forgot to say, earlier in like October, November, I think November, maybe, I watched this, TED Talk called The Power of Kindness by Orly Waba. Orly Waba is an amazing lady. She wrote this book I have here. She's just amazing. And she wrote this TED Talk did this TED Talk about kindness. And about the value of kindness and how kindness can just save you. It can really save you, save your soul, and save yourself. And I watched that, and I thought it was neat. I thought it was nice, but I still wasn't entirely compelled to start being kinder. Then I watched. She mentioned in a video in the TED Talk. She mentioned this skit that she shot for her nonprofit organization, and the skit is called Kindness Boomerang, and it's this video in which a construction worker sees like a kid's skateboard being lost, so he grabs like the skateboard and he helps the kid up, and then the kid decides to walk a lady across the street, and the lady decides to do. So it's basically this whole domino chain of kindness, and how one simple kind act of a construction worker helping out a kid led to like 15, 20 different people being affected, and then like so just one little thing caused all of this happiness in all of these people. And when someone does something kind for you, it really boosts your mood and makes you happier and feels really good, and it's just awesome. I don't know why, but I just did a peace sign. So there you go. Peace. And uh um so I watched that, right? And that made me want to be kind in general. So I started to be kinder. And then when my friend asked me if I would come over, normally I might have not, or like been awkward about it and not want to. But because kindness, I wanted to be kind. I had started to try and be kind in my daily life. I thought that would help me, and it would also help me get back together with Izzy, and this, which is stupid, but that's what I was wanting to do. And because of kindness, I decided to come over there and just hang out with my friend. Because when a friend invites you, it's a nice thing to do. If someone invites you, it's the kind thing to do to go. And so I came over and in the teacher's room, and instead of talking with the teacher, I decided to talk. I was talking with them, and then I met his friend Isba. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said her name. But so I met my friend's friend Isba, and we were just my friend and I were friends, and we talked, and I got a friend group. It was my friend and then his friend Isba. I wasn't really friends with Isba at this point. I was just friends with him. But we just hung out and we talked, and it was something nice because I didn't at that point I had no one. I really didn't have anyone else in my life. I only had pretty much the only person in my life before was Izzy, and then she left. So there wasn't really anyone left that I was actively talking with. And now I've just reconnected with this old friend, and then we started talking, and then, dude, I have a friend group again. And that was great. And then Isba and I got really close back in December break started, and I decided to learn her language because she's Pakistani, so she speaks Urdu, which is like Hindi, but different. And so I started learning a little bit of Urdu, and I told her about this, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's awesome!" And then I told her how I joined an Urdu Discord, and so she gave me her Discord so we could talk and stuff. And it was always kind of awkward. It was awkward, but then a few weeks later, December break starts, and I decided to talk with Isabel one day, and then we just started really talking, and it started really going well. And we just talked like all night, and we had this amazing night where we just talked like the entire night, and it was just awesome. And we talked about nature, we talked about beauty, we talked about music, and we talked about the night. We talked about the night, and we talked about winter because we both love night and we both love winter and the cold. And we talked about donuts. She had donuts at Walmart's, and it was like this funny thing. And just we just had this really great conversation, and now I made a really close friend. So now, before I was on my own and I was hyper focused on getting back together with Izzy. Now I had been realizing, oh my gosh, I was horrible, I was bad, and I wanted to apologize, and I had two new friends that were really cool. And um so I wanted to apologize to her, but I kept getting delayed again and again because I reconnected with an old best friend of mine, Twist, and I talked to him about this, and he said that he would like to help me. He said he could help me with it, and I kept asking him, and he would say, so I only wanted to do it on the weekend because I knew that during the week he was busy. So it was like every weekend I was like, "Hey, do you want to help me?" And he was like, "Oh, I can't do it this weekend." And it happened for about three or so weekends, so that was like a month. Um, and so that delayed me about a month, and then I just kept getting delayed because I was too much of a coward to do it. I wanted to be in a good mood, like good energy state because I'm very sensitive to my body's like rhythms and moods and stuff, and they affect me a lot. And I wanted to be in a good one, so I waited, and I just kept waiting and waiting and stalling. I just stalled a lot, and I kept trying, kind of, but I was such a coward, and I was too afraid to approach her. Anyway, so I didn't apologize to her yet, but I was starting to focus on other things and on my life and on improval, and I said the word renewal. I was like, thanks, my friend Josh and Isba. Thanks for being my friend. It's nice to have some kind of rebuilding. That was it. Because I said quote unquote, basically everything that I loved came crashing down, and they helped me start to build back up again. So 2020 came. Oh, no. Still 2019. February. So December break, Isba and I had that great conversation that really, like, we talked for hours and hours into the night, and it was awesome. And it was one of the first times I had done that kind of thing since Izzy broke up with me 3 months before. So it meant a lot to me. It still does. Then in the second half of winter break, because this is the first half, the second half, I found this YouTube chat room. I was on a music lo-fi chat room, and in that chat room, I made this because of that kindness TED Talk and all this stuff. I was like, okay, what can I do to be kind? And so I decided to pay someone a compliment in the group chat, and then like they compliment, or in the YouTube, the live stream broadcast, and they decide, I guess maybe they said a compliment back to me, and then basically I started this chain of kindness, and then suddenly the chat was filled with everyone complimenting each other, and it was really nice and wholesome. It was really wholesome. We were all just complimenting each other a ton. And that's actually how Isba and I had that great conversation, is that kindness, is that I was trying to be nice and stuff, and that made the conversation really well, because, yeah, if you're nice to people, it makes it so much easier to have good conversations. Anyway, so then I just started this whole chat room chain where, like, we talked for like 3 hours, and we just kept calling each other awesome and kept complimenting each other and all kinds of stuff, and it was really great and really cool. Then suddenly, someone joined the live stream chat, and they said that there was someone suicidal on this other live stream, and we were like, oh my gosh, and so they said the name of the live stream, and so we went to the live stream. I went to the live stream, and I was like, oh my gosh, and other people came as well. We were like, dude, what can we do? What can we do? There's someone, like, gonna kill themselves. How can we help? And I don't think they did it. At least they didn't do it that night. And then I saw that in that live stream chat was even more suicidal people. There was at first 3, and then there was like 6, and then there was so many. And so, because of kindness and wanting to help my fellow humans, I was like, oh my gosh, let me help people. And so I spent the night there. I spent 24 hours straight at my computer. 24 hours. I sat at that desk on my brother's Chromebook, typing furiously. I wouldn't even get up to go to the bathroom, because I thought that if I left for 30 seconds, that someone could die. Because I basically, in one night, I talked to 50 people. I spent 24 hours there typing furiously, sending like free messages every minute, just being really, really fast, and really, really desperately trying to help these people. And so I spent 24 hours there, then I slept for like probably 8 to 10 hours. I was so exhausted by the end of that. I slept for like 8 to 10 hours. Then I spent the next 24 hours doing the same thing again. I typed for 24 hours, I went to bed, I woke up and then I typed for 24 hours more. And I met 100 people. I met like 100 people in 2 days. And I added a lot of them on Discord, on Instagram, on all kinds of social media. I downloaded Snapchat and added people on that. Yeah. Oh no, I already had Snapchat. Yeah. Um, I had Snapchat because these girls at my school wanted me to get it, and I'm really grateful because I would have. There's people that I would not have added, and people I would not be friends with if it weren't for that girl. Those two girls wanting me to download Snapchat. So thank you, both of you. Anyway, um, and so that was just a really big event in my life. That's why I'm getting into so detail into it. That was a really big event in my life, was finding that YouTube live stream chat with the suicidal people. Because then I spent the next few weeks of my life just spending so much time dedicated to trying to help them. And I wasn't sleeping well. From that point forward, I stopped not sleeping well because I was constantly on my phone trying to help people. And I wouldn't want to go to bed because people were online. People were online at nighttime, so I wouldn't go to bed. Then that made my health get worse. And so December onward, or like January onward, my life started to be like a mess. And now I wasn't focusing on like Izzy anymore. I was now focusing on helping suicidal people really badly. Well, I wanted to help everyone. I wanted to help every single person on that chat. But I helped a lot, and I helped 300 to 400. I talked to 300 to 400 people, and I convinced a lot of people to stay alive, which I'm really grateful for and so thankful, and I hope they're still alive. There's people like Rose Quinn and A Side of Ice Cream. Those are two people I remember specifically. Oh, an Unknown Z and Critical is his name. Yeah. So that happened, and I got really then I at the same time I got really close with Isba. I started to get closer and closer with Isba and talking with her a lot, and that I just love talking to her. It's one of the most fun things ever talking with her. And I started to make a ton of new friends like Jocelyn and Critical and John and all of these people. John is another friend that I met by being kind. I met him because I was on a YouTube chat. He commented in Spanish and I said in Spanish, "Oh, another one. Oh, I talked about him before." And so we added each other on WhatsApp and we became friends that way. So that was another incident where kindness gave me one of my best friends. Which is just why being kind is just one of the best things you can do for yourself. Givers get. Givers really get. So, yeah, then that was my life from like, and then January came, and it was 2020. I'm trying to think of anything else. That's basically, so then, that just set my life up to where it is now. I met a lot of people. I talked to like 400 something suicidal people. I spent dozens and dozens of hours in YouTube chat. But the point of this was that life is worth living. All of those experiences I have had so many amazing conversations and amazing nights. Isba, I've talked with for hours and hours and hours, and we've had so many all-nighters, Isba and I. It's one of the funnest things ever talking to her. It's just so fun, and it's just so natural once you get into it. It takes a little bit to get into it these days. It takes like a couple minutes, maybe half an hour. But once we start talking, it's just really amazing and awesome. And then I've met all these other people, and I've met these people who are awesome, and these people who have made me happier. And I found direction. I've like reading. I've started reading a lot more. And I got this book on kindness, which has like improved my life. And I've got Fahrenheit 451, which is a book that like everyone ever should read. And I've just learned that life is amazing and life is worth living. And I hope and I pray to God that everyone listening to this will stay alive, because it is so worth it. It is so worth it. I was suicidal in the past with Izzy stuff. I was suicidal, and if I had killed myself, I would not have experienced any of these amazing things that I've experienced. I would not have met any of these people. I wouldn't have had any of these amazing calls with Isba. I wouldn't have had any of these amazing calls with anyone, or any of this fun, or any of this joy, any of this meaning and beauty and love. So much love. I feel so much love, and I've felt so much happiness and so much warmth and so much meaning and purpose. And I would not have experienced any of that if Izzy had stayed with me. I probably wouldn't have found any of these people. And I wouldn't have grown, because I grew so much from making such a big mistake and from losing someone. I grew so much. And that was the growth that I needed. That was the growth that I needed in order to do all of these things and to live this better life. So this thing that was really painful ended up being so good for me in the end. And now, like, that breakup is probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because if that breakup didn't happen, I probably I would not have met Isba. I wouldn't have reconnected with Josh, my friend. I wouldn't have met any of these people. And how much less happy I would be, how much worse I would be, if it were not for me being broken up with by Izzy. And that's an example of how pain makes better happiness. Pain makes for better life and greater happiness. As we work to create light for others, we naturally light our own way. Mary Ann Radmacher. Huh. I love this book. Such a good book. Oh. I just really hope to stay alive in this world. And I want to help all of you. So yeah, stay alive. Because if I had actually killed myself, I would not be here talking right now. And no matter how bad life seems, just like how I thought life was terrible back when I was trying to manipulate Izzy, I have discovered that it is amazing, it is beautiful, it is awesome, and it is worth it. So please, learn from my mistakes, learn from my life, and stay alive. And never give up hope. Thanks for listening. I hope to talk to you again.